Good afternoon, everyone. Let's do a quick sound check. Hopefully, you can hear me loud and clear. What's going on, Coach Paul?
Oh, just recovering from a long day.
Yes, it was a day in the markets for sure. Hopefully, you can all hear us and see us clearly. Let me know if you can, and we'll go ahead and get started from there.
You sound good from here.
Sounds good to me, too. Want to make sure the stream's going through, and we'll go with it. Not getting a confirmation yet. Good on audio and video from Andrew. Thank you, Andrew, very much. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I am Coach Jay, been a Topstep Performance Coach for a little over a year now, been trading for about 11 years. Started off trading stocks and options and have moved over to futures trading a couple years ago. And that's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I'm been a futures trader for 4 decades. Been just about every market that's available. I started on the trading floor. I'm currently been trading off the floor for about 20 years
Yes.
and enjoying my time here, a little over a year at Topstep. And just trying to get better all the time.
We can do.
Learning from also learning new tricks from all the staff here, and hoping to help everyone else in their journey to success.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Coach. The way we start every segment, can I turn up my volume a bit? Let's see. The way we're going to start every segment is by looking at the top percentage movers on the day. My volume should be a little bit louder now. Top percentage movers on the day. We're going to look towards the downside and we'll go with the top three. So I see live cattle coming in at number 3, down 0.43%. The Swiss franc down 0.64%. And the Mexican peso, which has been on this top percentage mover list a lot, down 0.87%. To the upside, we have nat gas up 2.05%, heating oil up 2.7%, and soybean oil, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 3.71%. We got crude oil up 1.81, gold up 0.66%. The NASDAQ pretty much unchanged, up 0.14%. And where's ES on this list? It's hiding somewhere. Where are you, ES? ES up 0.16%. Violently unchanged markets, Coach.
Oh boy, there's an old country song, but we got there by way of Omaha,
Right.
and everywhere in between. It's, I basically lost very little money in the equities,
Okay.
and I felt really good about that.
Nice. That's good. Yeah, it's always good to lose well. Let's talk about it. So we did have some news come out today. We had a jobless claims number come out. Pretty much what was expected. Expected 1.87 million. What was the actual was 1.86 million. So not much of a change there. And then we had pending home sales. Big miss on this number.
Big,
What was
big
expected?
miss.
Huge miss. What was expected was 0.2%, and it came out negative 5.5% for a big miss on that number. And we saw a reaction to it. We'll get into that when we get into the NASDAQ. But we also know we had NVIDIA. NVIDIA earnings came out yesterday. We covered it during at the buzzer yesterday and the volatility of it all. And with all that being said, biggest earnings report of the century, we haven't
Of
moved.
all time.
Of all time, we have not moved. NVIDIA, what is NVIDIA trading at right now? I will check it, and I believe it's unchanged, right? So we had a expected move based on earnings of 138 points to the upside, 111 to the downside. Nvidia closed today at $118, so pretty much unchanged. Where again, volatility providing opportunity, but not much as far as change in value for the second largest weight in both the S&P and the NASDAQ. Hence why we have not seen the NASDAQ change value either.
Yeah, that last night S&Ps, these were 30 something lower,
Mm-hmm.
35 lower,
Yeah.
40 lower at one point. And look at that. First half an hour, we made then the first hour we set the initial balance.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we got above that VWAP, it was just a
Where
rise
do you buy it?
nonstop.
Where do you buy it? So I have the NASDAQ up here and what Coach Paul is talking about. So we had NVIDIA earnings. There was somewhat of a negative reaction as far as price goes. We did gap down. We held, and I did have a level at 19,150. I believe we talked about it a little bit yesterday. But where we kind of started this breakout to the upside up towards 20,000 started from this 19,150 area, right? If we can look here, and this is going back to August 15th, we have the lows of this move on August 15th. I believe there was some news prior to the market opening. 19,150 was an interesting area down there, and I have to watch the recording from yesterday, but I think we talked about that being an important spot. I also did see on another platform a buy side imbalance down there where the last time those traders came in, they traded a ton of size. And we can see it in the overnight, coach. We look down to it, ask those buyers, did they still like these prices? And it looks like they did.
Well, that was the 20-day moving average was the low today in the NASDAQ.
There you go.
When we hit it last night.
20-day moving.
Almost.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have it at 20-day moving average. I had it at 19,128, which changed a little.
Okay.
What was
Yeah, so very interesting.
and the low was 40.
We did talk about, is that this market is kind of in decision-making mode. I know you said you were looking at that 20 moving average yesterday on the call. Like, does that hold or do we continue to sell? The 20 moving average was below the 50. So the market had a decision to make about, is it going to trade back up to the upside or do we continue to sell off from here?
And it's caught in the range.
Yep.
And we talked yesterday, end of the month. Be careful.
Yes.
It was a great trade right off the opening. It had a great run. First half an hour, we hit the second resistance. I'm seeing the first resistance around 48 to 50, where we fell off the cliff.
You talking
Right
about the
back to the
NASDAQ, coach?
pivot. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the S&P. In the NASDAQ was very similar. That first half an hour, or you could frame it out on your 3-minute.
Mm-hmm.
When the volume came in, and we talked about this yesterday, better trade. I mean, you could trade overnight. There was a nice buy, but there wasn't a big volume. That big volume came in the 8:30 Central Open.
Correct. Yep. Right on that New York session open.
And I found this very interesting, Coach. Once again, it reminded me of the other day in Crude.
Okay.
Most of the big range, like less than a third of it, came in the regular trading hours.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A big move overnight on lower volume. We've seen this happen before, where we kind of get this low volume rally overnight, where we made, we traded 350 points in the overnight session. A little more than that actually. We opened up New York around 19,470. So over a 300 point move in the overnight session, and then during regular trading hours, we did have a move and we did ultimately get a 300-point move to the downside, but it wasn't an easy move, right? If you're trading in that morning session, there was a lot of chop, a lot of overlap, where the clear trend was that overnight session.
Yeah, but when we were talking after that report, it was kind of we had the initial move and it kind of died.
Yep.
Did you see any news overnight?
No, no news overnight from what I saw. It to me, it just kind of looked like a technical short covering rally. Nothing I saw as far as anything that would lead this move, and I also didn't see really any volume anomalies last night either. Right, it looked like kind of normal volume. We did see some selling at the lows at this 19,150 area, but nothing that stuck out as, hey, I should probably pay attention to that.
All right. Um, with that, Patty, AAPS, NQ is at settlement price. Can you talk a bit about how to trade around settlement?
Yeah. So to me, what settlement is, and why I would look at settlement is, it's an important level, right? We talked about it yesterday. It's where the exchanges are marking prices, and the way I look at it for my own personal point of view is above settlement, the market is positive on the day, right? Whether it's a tick above settlement or two ticks above settlement. Below settlement, the market is negative on the day. So I look at the settlement number as, is the market going to close green or red today? And watching the reaction to that to see if it presents a trade opportunity. I was on market stalking with D, and we talked about potentially taking a short at settlement, and we can see the indecision, right? Settlement today was 19,415 in the NASDAQ, and it's a range bound trade until that breaks out, right? Where it presented one, two, maybe three opportunities to take a short off of it, and then it looked like it was a support. Maybe you can take a long here, but you can see how the market is making a decision around this price. Thought today was a really interesting day in the Nasdaq. We had, and I want to zoom out to a higher time frame chart, and we'll take the indicators off. This 19,690, right under 19,700 area that we have here in the Nasdaq, has been an important level all week.
Yeah,
On
really has.
Monday, and I was telling Coach Paul this, and you guys know I use Quantower for some of my volume analysis. I'm not going to pull it up here, but we can use a simple volume indicator. On Monday, there was between 19,691 and 19,695 about 600 contracts aggressively sold, right? And there was an imbalance there, a selling imbalance of about 600 contracts between four prices. I'm going to go down to a smaller time frame. We already framed out what that area is, and I'm going to go back to Monday. And it's this candle right here on Monday. The high of it is 19,718 and the low is 19,653. Right? So I'm going to frame this candle out. And in this area, a huge sell order went off, right? And look at how we've responded to that level the entire week, right? Here's today. Here's yesterday, where yesterday we tested it overnight. And when we tried to, during regular trading hours, get back into this range, we sold off. Here's Tuesday. And of course, Monday when the selling started. So
Wow.
the very interesting. This price means something to a big seller at that position, and the way I'm reading this, if they were selling to open a position there, they're defending that position every time the market gets up to that price. It'll be, to me, a very interesting level to watch throughout the rest of the week and maybe even further. I know we are closing out the month tomorrow, but that's a big order there, and that price is significant, and we can see
And
how
then
often.
market when it gets up there slows down,
Yep,
right? It's like there's an order there that they
can't get
can't
through.
get through. Big offers.
Right,
Oh, every time.
every time.
Let's keep that. marked for the rest of the week, and that
Right. So right
wow,
around 50% of that
nice.
is 19,686. But again, that selling, and it's of course it's the biggest imbalance is at 690, but there is they're selling all through that area up from 680 up to 700. So looking at that 685 to 700 area as a big seller in there. And then we can see when the volume stepped back in, right? We're leaving this range. This is 1 p.m. Central Time. This candle here, 19,633 is the high, 19,577 is the low. To me, that set off the move for the second half of the day, right? Where the market just chopped around in this range for a while, making a decision, and then volume comes in. We know we had Bostic speaking later in the session as well. Volume comes in, pushes us out of that range. And from there, coach, I can anchor a VWAP to there. We can see it, but it's, you know, and you can see the volume here increasing as we sell off, which is telling me that, sellers are behind this move.
Boy, it's interesting that that price area
Mm-hmm.
is the 50-day moving average on the daily.
And someone's watching it.
Someone's watching because it's been underneath it. One, two. This is the third day where the highs have been made at that area. That's a battle line,
Mm-hmm.
which we shall mark going forward.
Yep. Let's keep that on there. And if it moves lower, let's see how they continue to respond to it. So very interesting stuff for sure. Coach, anything else on the
Coach,
NASDAQ before we move to the ES? Go ahead.
no, we have one question from chat. Does settlement work like a magnet when we see a failed auction? Uh, I I don't see that myself, but I'm not watching for that.
Yep. I'm not. So a failed auction, if you're referring to a failed auction the way Hogue refers to a failed auction, that may not happen near settlement. It could happen, somewhere very far from settlement. So, yeah, I don't know that I would look at that way either.
And if you see something, start studying, mark it on your chart. You might find something there.
Yep.
I would encourage you to do that.
100%. It's funny that you say that, Coach. I was talking to my younger brother who's starting to get into trading, and I showed him. He knows now how we frame out high volume candles and the opening range and things like that. And he's getting into trading. So I told him that crude oil opens at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and the equities open at 9:30. He took that as the opening range is 9 a.m. for every market,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it would. You wouldn't.
framed out the 9 a.m. candle, 9 a.m. Eastern time candle. And he's just like, well, the market keeps responding to that level. And he's done it for a couple of days. So what I told him is, hey, listen, I don't know everything. And I'm not going to ever say that I do know everything. If you, as a trader, identify a pattern that no one else sees, guess what? If you can find a way to trade it, make it make sense to you. And that's what I told him as well. He might be watching right now. But, you know, trade it, trade it. I can't say whether you're right or wrong. If you see a pattern and it plays out continuously, you may see something that I don't see.
All the greatest discoveries have come by accident.
It's a great point.
There was a British series on that. Was incredible. So if you find something, and it works, and you can frame it out, have at it.
Yeah, yeah. There is no right or wrong. And I was thinking about this the other day, where sometimes we try to figure out exactly how other people view the markets, but with certain things, right? If we look at something like market profile, for example, before market profile existed, what was before that, right? That was someone's view of the market and how they made sense of it, and it made sense to enough people to share that information where we can say, hey, we can all see the market this way, right? Same thing with volume profile, or really anything that we use. It was an idea from someone's mind, and then they said, hey, I see enough patterns, let me package this up so it can make sense to other people, and that's all it is. Nothing else than that.
Before there used to be tick charts. We
There you
used to
go.
do them by hand, X's and O's.
Right.
And even then there was different opinions, and this is why coming in and learning, getting different perspectives and find something that works for you, you can do consistently.
100%.
Um, wow, what a great.
Anything else on the equities, coach? The ES pretty much did the same thing. What I want to look at on the ES, and again, this is going to apply to the NASDAQ as well. But let's look at these moving averages on the daily. I need to save these as my defaults, so I will do that.
Yeah, went right to that 50
Mhm.
handle, 50 and a half. I had 48 as resistance. And once again, we slowed down there. And for those of you who are watching Topstep TV, a lot of people had that level.
Yep.
And I kept on thinking of you, Coach Jay. It's an even level. It's a 50. It's a major number.
Yeah.
And when it just slowed down, it saved me a lot of money. Once it broke that half an hour low off the high, that 50,
Mhm.
I just got out and got flat. I didn't go to get short.
Yeah.
But very interesting because it went from first level support to pivot to first level resistance on my numbers, only to settle right back in the middle.
Yeah. Very
And
interesting.
it didn't surprise me considering what we were talking about yesterday. It's also the end of the month.
Correct. Correct. So, what are you looking for when you refer to end of the month, coach? What are you looking at exactly?
Well, the end of the month. And by the way, put up if you can put up a monthly chart. I did this last night with
The monthly does not look great on Top Step X, so I'm gonna pull up a daily.
because yeah, yeah, the month. All right, and go to August 1st.
We're pretty much unchanged.
Frame out August 1st.
We're pretty much unchanged on the month. I think I know what you're looking at.
We're very much unchanged.
This monthly candle might end in a doji.
Yeah, this kind of floored me when I saw that. We really so this month with all the drama involved, we haven't gone much. So why I bring that up, there's not allocation from my experience, especially in equities, begins at the beginning of the month.
Okay.
And moves get wild at the end of the month because, bigger players probably aren't involved. Um, and it can get funky like you saw today.
Mhm.
There really wasn't great volume, was there? But from your
On a
perspective?
on a daily, it has been increasing over the
Hmm.
last couple of days, but the books were very thin. The books were very thin today,
Yeah.
where there's not. I mean, near some of these major levels, right? That 690 in the Nasdaq and up at the highs in the ES. The high of the day today was 56.64 ish. There were some orders around there, but excuse me, in the middle, the order books were very thin.
Hey, Coach, if this the daily on the NASDAQ,
Hmm.
put the 20-day moving average in the 50.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep, you should be able to see it here. The 20 below the 50. All of us, everything above the 200 right now, but uh, kind of decision making here.
The high and the low.
Right.
So looking into the beginning of next week, I think those two numbers are going to be very important. The level you had of resistance is being the 50-day moving average. Today, the support, which was last night, was the 20-day. And I, um, most, I wouldn't be surprised if we stay in this range tomorrow. If you were managing billions of dollars, would you take big risks before Labor Day weekend at the end, at the end of the month?
Nope. Last holiday we saw was July 4th, I believe, and there was a
Hmm.
rally into that week. But yeah, I don't know that I would be taking risk right before that, right? We may see some, during the holiday week, kind of a low volume float rally. But right before it, with the end of the month being tomorrow, don't expect it. Of course, anything can happen. Um, but again, on a 30-minute, we are still very range bound in the equities right now, and it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon.
All right. Any comments from the audience? Let us know now before we move to.
We got from JJFX. We are going to retest the lows next month. Maybe, right? Anything can happen. I do look at these markets and feel like they're kind of heavy here, where we keep rejecting at some of these levels. And for me personally, anytime I see a move, it looks more convincing to the downside right now, right? Where these moves are happening, downward moves are happening on higher volume, and the upward moves are happening on lower volume. Uh, so right now, it's in a decision-making area. The market has not chosen a direction over the past almost 2 weeks now. Of course, that's not going to change. The equities are not going to stay in this range forever. We will see how they break out from there. But the way I look at it, market participants are going to tell us exactly how that break looks. Let's go over to crude oil. To gold real quick, and then we will go to crude. Gold, very much the same. We made these highs last week at 25.70. And from that point, we have been in balance, right? We have not traded below 2,500 or above that new all-time high, 2,570. And if we look at the moving averages, the 20, the 50, and the 200, we are still very much in balance. We talked a little bit about this yesterday and the day prior, where I took a short on Tuesday from the high of this range. We're calling the highs anywhere from 25.60, the lows of the range. I really want to say 25.35, although we are getting some extensions of that lower. But, you know, patterns are patterns until they break. Looks like going into the close for gold, we rejected up at these 25.60s and already starting to trade back down to the low of that range.
Yeah, there was some good day trades in the gold.
Okay.
I love that micro gold.
Yeah.
2 lots in the micro gold, and I can not worry about losing my eyes.
Right.
Um, uh, the low, we had a big bar, which encapsulated most of the day's range on the half-hour bar. And this was a class. Actually, I'm going to bring that up and look at the 7:30 half-hour bar.
And we got a question from Joe while I'm pulling this up. Joe, how do you determine the ranges? Just looking at the price, right? If I took everything off my charts as far as indicators and anything goes, look at where the market responds. Somewhere around 25.60, right? And it's not going to be perfect. And then somewhere around 25.30, just highs and lows. So you were talking about the 7:30, 30 minute.
Yeah, that's 7:30. What is a volume event?
Yep,
And
that's
just without that volume event, and then to put a VWAP, and this is the one you've showed me, Coach. We have that big volume, hold the lows. We have buying next to it, and VWAP holding with some micros. That was a great cheap trade
yeah.
against new lows,
So if I'm looking
and
at
I
this,
took that.
that's an awesome trade. If I'm looking
I
at this,
saw.
we
Go ahead.
have this 8:30 candle, 7:30 central candle is that jobless claims print, right? So we're framing out the news event. VWAP in it. We hold the lows. I'd really love this entry so much. You don't get it often, but when volume doesn't go and we test the lows, this is a great, to me, risk reward trade here. Where worst case scenario, I can trade back up to VWAP, and if it holds, then I'm wrong. But a lot of times we'll see this where this VWAP angle is relatively flat based on the price action. Trade back up at least to the high of that range, and that's a 20-point trade in gold.
Yeah, 2 micros, and I picked up $300.
Amazing. Amazing.
I forgot about it. It's like,
Yeah.
um, but it that's a huge range, right? I mean, it can most accounts at Topstep handle that kind of risk,
Right.
but at this point, I'll call it the J candle. It's really important. I want to go over why that trade. We see it in every market. Think of it as there is all that selling. That's big selling. I mean, that candle. That's the middle finger volume candle, right?
Mhm.
It
Right.
just stands out from the rest, and it makes the low. And the next candle is a buy candle with less volume.
Mhm.
Why I think this is the principle is it's a safe trade that all the king's horses and all the king's men selling large contracts can't. There's no follow through. That's value. You can also call that value,
Right.
right?
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure if we
And
pulled up some volume profile and things like that, it'll be a value area, point of control, or something like that, where a ton of volume is hitting a level, and then the market is responding to there saying, that's the limit of where we are going to take this right now.
yeah, I would back that if for our viewers, if you've ever read Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, if you haven't, read it. It's like the Bible of traders. In that, there's a story of in the old, and this is around in the 20s, 1910s. Um, s- Somebody has a tip in the trading room, a young guy, and it goes to the old guy and says, "You got to buy." Well, let's put it this: you got to buy gold.
Mhm.
And comes and he picks up the phone and he says, "Sell 1,000 gold." And the kid freaks out. He says, "No, I said buy it." He gets all his fills, the old bird, and then he looks at his fills and he got filled really well, right? Now think about it. If you sold a bunch and you got really good fills, you got value there. Then he turns around, gets his fills and says, "Buy 2,000." This kind of trade reminds me of that.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh no, that's and that when we see this, well, we see it a lot in the equities. We see it everywhere.
Right.
It's a great trade.
Ton of volume comes in, it's done, and when they're done, and JD mentioned it in the chat as well. The sellers, if they were selling to open here, when we kind of settle at these lows of this range, they have to buy it, right? And that's if we zoom out, that's the higher time frame range we were talking about. No matter what sellers do right now, they cannot push the prices lower than where, you know, this area is. And of course, it's a zone, nothing is perfect, but it's from 25.30 to 25.35. These sellers are getting absorbed, and then the same thing for buyers, they're not able to push it. This is an accumulation stage in the market right now where we are going to see likely a violent move out of this when it happens, but there's probably a catalyst for that to happen. And JD, again, shout out to you. I saw you mention it. We might stay in this range until FOMC. I don't disagree with that. Uh, where we know that that is going to be a big catalyst for the market. We do have some others before that comes out, but we know that that's the big one, right? And of course, anything can happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Speaking of news, let's see what we got on the calendar for tomorrow, and then we will go into crude oil. Tomorrow we have core PCE price index, Canadian GDP at 7:30, U.S. consumer spending number as well. Uh, and then, of course, we have University of Michigan sentiment at 9 a.m. Central Time. So just be aware of that if you are going to be in a position in either the equities or crude or gold, that there may be some market moving events. Even if we do stay in these ranges, it can be violent in these ranges. So you want to be aware that there are any news events coming out. And if you're watching Topstep TV, Eddie is always giving us a 5-minute warning for when those happen, so you don't have to worry about it on your own.
Took the words out of my mouth, Coach. Especially the University of Michigan sentiment. That can be a market mover.
Yes.
Um, so be aware of that one. I've seen it move the market. I don't know if there's that many University of Michigan alumni to move the market that way, but it can make a reaction.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I'm on Power Hour every Friday when that number comes out, and I'm just saying, hey, I'm going to be patient because we know we have Michigan sentiment coming out. So going to remind myself of that again tomorrow. But
Coach Eddie will remind you too.
absolutely, if I don't remind,
He's the best at that.
right.
He's
Uh,
really good.
so let's talk about crude oil. Crude oil in this higher time frame range that we've been talking about from a 80 to 70. And right now we're right in the middle of it, right? If I frame out 80 and we call the lows of the range 71.50. Right now we're just chopping around the middle of that range. Pretty range bound. If I pull up the moving averages, we can see that they're all kind of wrapped around each other. Really no decisions being made in crude either. But coach, there was some what seemed like headlines coming out.
Yeah.
Any insight on that?
What had happened, if you can blow that out a little bit, I
Hmm.
think that using a 5-minute bar, we
Okay.
had there's the huge volume.
Yes, it is. Here, let's go down to I'm on a 3-minute right now.
three
And
minute.
yeah,
So it we were at the lows, and then we just exploded higher.
yep.
There was talk of rumors of Iran going to cut their production.
Hmm.
Um, I'm I've been around a long time. I remember the '70s embargo.
Okay.
When I was a kid, you could get gas for under 50 cents a gallon.
Should have stored some of it.
Um, yeah.
Would probably go
It
bad,
went
but
to $1.25. So basically, gas prices tripled, and you couldn't get gas.
right.
Now, just the talk of that can really send markets higher. Um, but we came right back down in the middle of the range, because the difference between then and now is there's plenty of crude here in the United States.
Yeah.
It's not a shortage. But any talk out of the Middle East, and if we've talked many times, this market is skittish, right? It just keeps up and down to the middle. It really hasn't changed much on the year. So it seems to me shorts got stuck.
Hmm.
Any kind of headline like that, and it's off to the races, and it was dramatic.
Yep.
Um, do we have? Oh, there's the middle finger trade right there with volume on
Here
the
it is
lows.
again. Yeah. So, and again, this is I use a 3-minute chart, right? So this is going to look different on different time frames, right? The highest volume one is this 3-minute right here. Um, and again, nothing is perfect, right? So if you frame these out personally, I use on a 3-minute chart, I use a lot of discretion where I'm framing these out. If it's one high volume and nothing else around it, then I'll use that one. But we can see this very next candle is it as well. Not saying that I would have done it for this trade. Don't want to go hindsight and say, oh yeah, you pick the low here and you go from there. But if you're going with the concept of I'm framing out selling, that selling may not happen in the time frame, in the exact time frame that you're looking at a trade, right? So I'm, it might happen in a 5-minute, right? 5-minute looks a little different. If I was using a 5-minute, then I get the exact low of that candle, right? Where
That's a
that high
very good
volume is.
point,
So you want to
Coach.
go ahead.
I just wanted to put this in there. When you're executing, you most likely the hierarchy is a longer term view coming down, executing at a shorter term. When you get in that trade based on a 5-minute or a 3-minute or a 15-minute, that's your exit.
Hmm.
It has to be based on that.
Yes.
I see a lot of people get in a lot of trouble when they say, "Well, let me see what I entered on the 5 minute. Let me see what the 1 minute looks like." Trying to find another reason.
No,
S-
stick with
That
your.
yeah.
You're
Go
going to
ahead,
find a
coach.
reason. You're going to find a reason.
You're going.
You're going to find something. Well, this hourly chart where I, mapped it out and I spent my whole weekend identifying this level, told me that I should sell it here. But then I went down to a 15-second chart and it looked like a buy, so I didn't do it
Coach, why do you know that?
because I've done it.
Raise your hand.
Everyone should have
And
their hands up
I've
right
done
now.
it more than once, and I might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer,
Right.
but after a while, I bang my head against the wall. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe I should stop that. So it's important
Yes.
because it's really important because you want to be consistent,
Right. Absolutely.
and
We
that
got
brings
His Royal saying
consistency.
you can manipulate any time frame to make you smart. Absolutely. Right. Well, I can't find a buy on this hourly chart, so I'm just gonna go down to a one tick chart and I'll find a buy there, and then I'll be right. You don't want to do that. Have a set time frame, and then a set of rules for why you're looking at this time frame. And again, like I said, for me, in this, when I look at this and I see sustained volume, when I'm looking at a volume read, I know I'm on a 3 minute and it may only look this way on a 3 minute. I may have to include that sustained volume. If that was a complete drop off, then I would ignore that candle. But we can see it. The volume held up. So I have to pay attention to that.
Hey, Coach,
Mm-hmm.
right there, we have a good question from
Mm-hmm.
Tess Asefa.
Okay.
Why use anchor VWAP over regular? And I would use this example right here. When we see that big volume selling, we
Mm-hmm.
would just that. Now,
Uh,
if we
Go ahead, coach.
anchoring right at that big volume on that sell, because right away we're making lows, we're breaking. Now, what I like to do is buy it over the next candle if it does.
Okay.
With that, I have a good idea of is that move over. This was kind of a flat reaction, but anchored VWAP is still moving higher. That's one way to use it, and Coach Jay is the volume master, so I'll let him finish that.
I mean, you said it, coach. It's the anchor tells you, hey, from this point where we're seeing some of these high volume events, how has the market responded since then, right? And sometimes there's going to be a lot of overlap, right? We can see the blue line on the chart here, and the yellow one is the anchor. At some point, they do overlap because it's taking an average of volume over time and price over time. But anchoring it to a high volume event is going to give you the market's reaction since that volume came in. So that's why I use one over the other. For example, here's another one here. This is the open, right? Crude oil open. Look at the difference between the anchor and where VWAP was, where full day session VWAP was, right? Huge difference. Where if you're waiting for a reversion to the full day VWAP, you never got it. While the anchor, right, since the market open, the anchor stayed in those opening prices. That's when most of the volume came in. So, not to say that the prices that traded during London and Asia were irrelevant, but when more volume comes in, those prices are more relevant. So, from the time that market opened, anchored VWAP never left to the low and acted as a support on this entire run up. And that's why I'll use the anchor, and I'll use both, right? I look at full session, but the anchors mean a lot more.
Great explanation. There's the difference. And I will always put a anchored VWAP to the opening, whatever opening you want to use.
Right. Yeah.
And I
Um,
think that's about it for crude because one thing, watch for tomorrow. We're
yeah.
still in hurricane season.
Mm,
This was the weekend of Katrina when crude oil, natural gas opened up at six sigma, like up massive amounts. On Fridays, markets in the energies tend to hold or rally a little bit. No one wants ever to get caught in that again.
right. Um, all right, and I think that's it for the markets coach. You got anything on your scouting report right now?
No, um, really not much.
Okay.
So, how
I
about
will
you?
say I will say what I have been looking at recently, and Cajun LA says don't jinx us down here. Anyone who is in an area where you do have any bad weather or anything like that, hopefully everyone is safe. If you do have any bad weather, because we know how that can get. And JD, I know you're in the Texas area as well, so stay safe to everyone first and foremost. But what I've been looking at is the 30-year. I've told you, Coach, I've been looking at potentially trading treasuries, and whether that be the bonds or the 10-year. And I'm just looking, right? Right now, I'm just looking. I have not put any of my own real money or a funded account or anything like that behind any of these trades, but they're presenting opportunity. Again, like the equities in these range bound in this range bound market for now, and again, probably going to stay like this until FOMC, especially in these markets, unless something changes. But uh, just identifying opportunities, right? We're traded like a range bound market, long at the lows and short at the highs. Why I'm looking at these specifically is because everything else that I trade right now is very fast paced, right? I'll trade the NASDAQ, I'll trade the ES. I'm looking for something that I can put a trade on, identify a level, put it on, and then just leave it. Why I really like these is, the order books are, there's no thin order book here, right? Thick
Can
order
you bring
books.
one up just to show it?
Yeah, let's see. Give me 1 second. Let's link these charts.
Oh, yeah. One thing
And
of note, Coach, with we just rolled in the treasuries from
okay,
SEP to BEAS, and I'm seeing a gap.
okay.
That's why I use continuous charts. Just I don't see it on yours. I
No,
see
I
it
mean
on
this is
mine.
a Topstep X chart. I'm not seeing a gap at all, but
Is that a
uh,
1 hour or
this
a
is a
half
30 minute,
hour?
30 minute.
Oh, you got better data than I am.
Man, that's why you got to use Topstep X.
Yeah.
uh, Great platform, by the way. Make sure you set your own personal daily loss limits when you are trading on TopstepX. It was removed last Sunday, so you want to make sure that you use that and set your own based on your trading, right? Not based on an arbitrary amount, but based on where your averages are in your trading and things like that. But again, yeah, the treasuries are on my watch list. I'm going to try to trade them the same way. Uh, what I have seen is that I can't look at a 3 minute chart in any of these because I will drive myself crazy where there's no movement. But something I'm looking at, right? We have this candle here. I don't know what this is. I don't know if there was news, but there was a very heavy volume spike on a 30-minute chart. If we go back to today, we traded somewhere around 50% of that. It works everywhere. Um, and and
Yes,
we
it does.
bounced. And we bounced. The other interesting thing that I've seen in the treasury markets, and Coach, maybe you can talk to this a little bit. I've kind of just back tested over a few days and seen that at 8:40 Eastern time, so 7:40 Central, there's usually a high volume spike. And I know the treasuries open a little bit earlier than everything else.
7:30
They open at 7:30. Okay, so interesting. So 7:30
officially.
officially open at 7:30. Got you.
Yeah,
Um, so
7:20.
Right. That's what I
Because they
thought.
want to be open 7:20. I apologize, and I was there for a long time, but yeah, it's a weird opening. So you probably see that spike. Wow, yeah,
There's your
because they
seven.
want to be open for economic news coming out at 7:30 Central.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So yeah, 720 open, but for whatever reason, I've been seeing a volume spike at 740. And again, anything we're saying here is for educational purposes only. Nothing is considered any type of trading advice, but I see a pattern. And I'm going to try to figure out if that pattern is a tradable pattern. The tick value on ZB is the most expensive out of all of them. It's 31.25 a tick, but you can go all the way down to the 2 year and kind of trade them the same way. Where I think personally, why I'm looking at these, they present opportunities for me to trade level to level, and I don't have to look at a chart, and I can take trades with well-defined risk. And there's not a lot of coach. These order books are so thick that there's not a lot of speculation. There's not a lot of slippage in price and anything like that. If it's a level, it's a level for a reason, and
I would,
from what I've seen, it's not going to break.
Coach, I would put it this way too. Everyone at Top Step could sell one lot and not change the bid and offer in a 5 year. It's that thick.
Right. Yep. So
You'll see 5,000, 7,000 up on the bid and offer. Sometimes when it gets slow.
yeah. I'm looking at the 5 year right now, and the markets are closed. Right, there's 100, 200 right below us, 310 right below that, 600 below that, and these are closed markets. Right, when these markets are open, these are pretty thick order books. Can we add these to the tilt? That I think there are probably not enough traders trading it to get the data for that. It might be one. It's like tilt's 100% positive in the 2 year, and it's like Jack's trading it in his office. So I don't know how interesting that data would be until we get some
Or
more traders trading it. But you know, maybe this is where it starts, right? I think there's about 250 of you watching now, and again, we're not saying this to say, hey, you should go trade these markets, but I see it presenting an opportunity for me to take a trade and still do what I do with the equities, but another area to look for opportunity because they are trading. The coach, the 5 year, how much is it per tick? 625.
725 or 625. So they here. Let's put it this way: all of them, 1.32 ticks is $1,000.
Right.
I still look at them as so 30. There's 32 ticks in every handle. So 119 even to 120 even would be $1,000. 1,000 divided by 32 is 31.25, and then divide that by a half into 5 years.
Okay.
So 15.625. Yeah, I've been doing that a long time.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I'm gonna have to replay that one because I couldn't take notes fast enough. It's like it's like math class when phones finally became a thing. I would just take pictures of what the teacher was putting on the board and then just review it afterwards because I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about in real time. I need to slow that down and rewind a little bit. But I appreciate you, Coach. You did some quick math in your head. It's been a
No, I
long
was in
day.
it for a long time, and
I
I can.
know.
Well, we'll go over it. I'll get all the stats,
Mhm.
um, and get all the ticks. And we've had this discussion how many times. Treasuries can be a great place to learn how to trade.
Yep.
There, that you can put something on without worrying about getting ticked out that much, without some kind of crazy a
Right.
stop run. It doesn't happen in the treasuries. There's
You
no
know,
one there going because it's all large operators. They're not there trying to spook out the retail because there is no retail.
right. What's really interesting, and again, I'm just looking at this, and you guys are kind of getting this in real time. We're doing a scouting report real quick. I'm just looking at, hey, the way I read any other market, is there potential opportunities for me to take a trade here? This is a 5 minute chart. And you guys know I'm going to look for a volume anomaly, right? There's one here, at 3 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know who was trading treasuries then, maybe someone in London, and then another one at 4 a.m. Eastern time. The 4 a.m. one was the bigger one. So if I'm coming into the day, right, I'm not looking to trade before maybe 7:30 Eastern. I'm looking for levels. If I go here, the first thing I'm going to see is like, hey, someone traded a lot of contracts there.
And there you
And
go.
there you go. I have a potential trade. I can manage my risk at the highs of where this person traded. Maybe I go to the highs of the market. And the news that we had, the jobless claims news, checked right to 50% of that candle and sold off. So I'm going to be looking for it and probably talking about these a lot more as I continue to trade them. But I want to trade them the same way and continue to go from there. JD, was that a 50% rejection of that 5-8? JD knows. JD knows the play. JD knows the play. JD's been with us for a very long time. Shout out to you, JD. Your trade analysis has been amazing. But we are almost at an hour. I am going to run a session with Coach Jack in Discord in a little bit, so I'm going to get over there. If anyone wants to join us, Coach Jack is doing what we call a fireside chat. Has a ton of experience and is wants to share that experience with traders at Topstep. So we'll be doing that over there. Coach, you got anything before we go?
Just beware tomorrow. It's the last trading day of the month. In front of a holiday, pair down. It can get whippy, very much like today. And keep the bottom line, frame out your risk, preserve your account.
I do got one thing before we go. I almost missed this. We are looking to review trader stats on Topstep TV. Shout out to you, Cobra Bob. If you're watching, I'm going to review your stats tomorrow. We'll review your stats tomorrow on At the Buzzer. But share your stats with us. Sharing a link in the chat. Put it in there a couple of times. If you want your trades reviewed and your, just your overall account reviewed on Topstep TV, submit it there. The team is going to look through, pick out a couple, and either on shoulder tap, we can do it here, or during any of the other segments, review any of the trader stats, which I think is a very interesting segment. It's like a in-depth shoulder tap for a specific trader, and a lot of that information is going to apply to all of us, and hopefully help with your trading. We need a top step in Spanish. So Coach Ray actually is a fluent Spanish speaker, so maybe we'll talk to him about that.
See, he's very good. Yeah, he
Very
is.
good. Very good. So I got nothing else. Trade well. If you decide to continue trading today, make sure you manage your risk. We do have coaches doing segments all the time. Jack and I are going to do this one in Discord. Then after that, Coach Ray at 6 p.m., Coach Vince at 7, and then of course Dakota at 7:30 Central Time, Deanna for 3:30 London Open, and then we got Nick Fortick on Sundays, every Sunday. So ton of content. If you can't watch it all live, make sure you go ahead and watch that replay. Hit the thumbs up if you like what you heard today. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already. And if you are, tell your friends and family. I know we had Jack's mom in the YouTube chat watching. Tell your mom to subscribe as well. But thank you everyone. Thank you, Coach. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye.